welcome to Alex's Crafty Time, episode 7. I'm Alex and this is my crafty time and today I'm going to talk to you a little about the knitting and spinning and weaving and some of the kitchen adventures I've had probably over the last month because it's been about that long. So let's get into it. Since Tour de Fleece, I feel like I've done a lot and yet finished nothing, but we'll see if this pile of foes says the same thing as that's going on in my brain. So let's start off with the knitting. I have got a few foes, finished objects, that is to show you today. So first off, I made this wee babby cardigan. It's so cute. This is the Harvest cardigan by Tin Can Knits, which is a free pattern, and many people I imagine would have knitted it or are aware of it. It's a worse away pattern, but I used a bunch of minis in fingering weight held double with just like a brown sock yarn, and it's the 0 to 6 month size, and it's not for me, it is for a friend who is due in October, so it should be nice and cool by then, seeing as I am of course living in the US. I made another teeny weeny project, but this one's more teeny weeny. It's so little. This is going to be an ornament for my teeny weeny Christmas tree, and it's just, I think I just made it up following a basic sock pattern and did a short row heel, and the fluffy yarn at the top is the lock spinning experiment BFL that I had spun as part of Tour de Fleece, and the red is just some sock yarn leftovers. So that's a finished object. And then I finished 6 squares for my vivid blanket, which I'm quite pleased about. Every time I finish, have a little break from making these squares, I realize how much I like it when I go back to knitting them. Such a sense of achievement when you finish them, and it's like a surprisingly easy pattern to remember. I mean, it's not like that many rows, but it's very intuitive. So I finished this one. Okay, so then this is Tunis. I actually very casually block these by laying them out, but not pinning them, so some of them are a little bit uneven. But this is Tunis, and I'm very pleased with how this knitted up. These are all 2-ply yarns that I spun on my Aegean Turkish spindle, which is about a 30-gram spindle, and I spun most of these during Tour de Fleece actually. So Tunis, I think if I have some more Tunis, I want to do a lace project because I like how this looks. So, and then this is some BFL, and it's almost a waste, I think, to make this gorgeous. Oh, you can see a little bit better with the light coming in behind it, but it's almost a waste to make this gorgeous yarn into a lace because it's so slubby and textured that it doesn't show the lace off as well, whereas I think if it was in just stocking stitch, you get all the slubs. It's very soft though, so I think I need some more in my life. It's so beautiful. I do have a bit more of this left, not much, but a bit. And then this is the CVM, that's California Variegated Mutant, and this is Shave'em to Save'em breed, as is the Tunis. I think this is a gorgeous color too. Maybe I should make a sweater out of this. I think I could wear it and it would look good. And for a natural color too. It's very, it's interesting because they do the BFL has kind of a silky texture, and the Tunis is relatively soft, but it still has a bit of tooth to it. This one it feels like a little felty to me. And I mean, I did spin it woolen and hot, cold and rough in finishing to fool them a little bit. But it has like, it's very dry feeling compared to some of the other ones that I've spun so far. Velvety, maybe that's a good word. Or like suede, but I really hate touching suede, so, and that's fine. And then this is some Corriedale, which again, the lace has just shown up so nice on this, but I don't really like spinning Corriedale much. I've spun more, but, and then Svartbørs, which I'm probably saying wrong. Again, oh, you can really see the lace pop in with the light behind it. When it's down flat, you can't see it so much. This, I thought this was interesting. I had such a nice time spinning this. I don't know why, it just, and I had a really nice time knitting with it too. It's not like soft like baby kittens. It's quite toothy and like, it's got, I don't know, it's just got real character, and I think it's got pretty good stitch definition for it. And the color, like this is its natural color, which I think is awesome. And I don't know, it was just really enjoyable to knit with and spin. So I think I'm gonna have to make more or spin some more of the Zwart balls once I get my hands on some. I don't know what I make out of it because it's not so, like, it's got enough of a tooth to it for me not to want to have it as a cowl or something, but it might be okay in a sweater for the bits that like don't touch your skin. So like maybe as part of a yoke or something if you wear a higher neck shirt under it. I don't know, but I think it's just beautiful. And then this is the Tease Water, which I don't know how I feel about this. I don't mind spinning it, but for some reason, like maybe I need to block it harsher. I also just ran out on the bind off, so that's Corriedale on the bind off. It used up more yarn for this square than any of the other ones that I've had so far. And it's also significantly, like if I had blocked it fully, let's see if I can get light behind it. There we go. If I had blocked it more fully, it would be really big as well compared to the other squares, which I'm starting to wonder if that's just what the long wools do, because the Gotland that I have spun and knitted up as well is significant, is like a much bigger square. So that's the Tease Water. I tried to block these roughly into shape, but it's not as much of a difference as the Tease Water, like the Clon Forest, but that's the Tunis and the Tease Water. And you can see it is slightly bigger considering I'm holding it like even at the top. So I'll report back. I'll knit up that pattern in some more long wools and we'll see what happens, because they're all knit on 4mm needles, which I think is a US 6, and like I just knit them one after the other, so I don't know. They should be roughly the same size, but some are slightly bigger and some are slightly smaller. The magic of blocking will fix that in the end though. Then the last whip for knitting that I've been working on is one that I just started last night, which is this neckband. So, ta-da! It's not very exciting. It's just grey. And I did a tubular cast on though, which is a little bit uneven, but if anyone gets that close, I'll tell them to stop looking at my neck so closely. But obviously, like, I didn't think I had done it before, but obviously I had, because I had a lot of muscle memory when I was doing it. I looked it up how to do it, and once I did it the first time, I'm like, oh, I remember how to do this, and just banged along. But so when I say recast on for the shifty, it's because I had knitted it all the way to separating, like for the sleeves on the yoke, in the size that I thought it would be without doing a gauge swatch. So this is like somewhat my fault too, but it would have just been ginormous. So I did a teeny weeny gauge swatch and then some math, And so I'm knitting the size 3 now, which would normally be much too small, but it should work out to a sweater with like no ease on me. Although I've got, once I get to the arms, I've got to figure out how to add a little bit of extra width to the arms, because it looks like they would be very tight otherwise, which I don't really want. I like them just to fit. So, and I'm just knitting that out of some Blueprint yarn, which they're not selling anymore, and I'm going to be doing this in a gradient because the base is this kind of dove grey colour, and then I've got 2 mid greys and a black, and I've also got white if I decide to use that, but I don't think I will. I think it'll just be a bit bright. So that's that. And in other news, I'll insert a picture here of my crocheting FO. I don't crochet very often, and you can tell how not often I crochet because this blanket, I've been crocheting it since 2015. It's the Sophie's Universe crochet along, which I highly recommend for anyone who wants something that looks really complicated but holds your hand all the way through, because she has pictures of every step, like where you should put the hook. And it is an excellent pattern, but now the rows are super long. So maybe I'll finish it this year. That would be nice. And then it will be a finished 5-year-old whip. Be so good. I keep running out of the colors though, and most of them are fairly easy to replace because they're like navy or off-white, or what, I did find a whole bag of the mint yarn though in my stash, which I was very pleased about because I thought I had completely run out. But I'm almost out of the purple, and it's really hard to match because it's like a red purple, but none of the yarns that I've seen so far that are 100% cotton come anywhere close. It's a Bendigo Woolen Mills cotton from 5 years ago. So long shot. I've reached out to some people in Ravelry and been like, do you have any? Can I please have some? And so far one very kind person has gotten back to me, but we'll see how it goes. So spinning. I have been doing some spinning. I spun up 100 grams of a 2-ply Corriedale for a swap that I participated in. I'll show a picture in here somewhere. Even though that was Corriedale, I was very pleased with how it turned out. It had like really nice texture to it. I think that's just because I added a little bit more ply twist, and I was trying to be very consistent about the amount of ply twist I use. At the moment, it feels like I either underply or overply anything. I don't get the sweet spot, but for that I think I did. So I'm quite pleased with that. Then I finished this beautiful skein. This is Gold Coast Native. So this is the emtosave'em breed. And look at me all fancy. I even put a little tag in to say what it was. Although I probably should have written the yardage and grammage on here, but luckily I put it in my notes. So it's 145 grams and about 446 yards of a traditional 3-ply. So this is from the lamb's fleece that I bought a pound of raw lamb's wool, and then I washed it and I carded it into Rolags, and I spun it up on my electric eel wheel nano because it had a fairly short staple, and it was just, I don't know, it was just so nice to spin. So nice because it was very soft and kind of buttery feeling, and like I did get sick of making Rolags after a little while, so I still have some fleece left, but maybe, I don't know how big this skein will be, but like I said, so this is a traditional 3-ply. I think it ended up being, it fluffed up a lot after washing, so if you see it there, and I applied this on my Kiwi 3, and it's like this kind of it's not really vanilla, it's like a very bright off-white. It's not like white. So for instance, this Corriedale in here, I can tell it from the others because I think it's white, and I don't know if that's because it's been like bleached or something in the processing, because I got this as roving, but this is au natural, and I was trying to be consistent, and the nano spins quite fine, so I'm pretty happy with how this turned out for a 3-ply. I'll see if I can. There is a little bit of like VM and like little hairs in it still, which I'll probably pick out while I'm knitting, but there's not like a lot. So I also did my nails yesterday, and I got so distracted during the cast on because I kept stopping to admire them. So that's it. So I think it averages probably about a fingering weight, but there are definitely spots where it's closer to a DK and spots where it's maybe a sport weight. So it is next to skin soft though. I was wearing it around the house like this for a little while, which I seem to do with all my favourite skeins and tape measures, but and 446 yards is like a reasonable amount, so I should be able to do something with it. And then if I skein up or card up the rest of the fleece I've got, I might be able to make a little bit more out of it. So I didn't quite empty all of the bobbins on the nano to finish this, and my plan is at the moment to whatever. This is not getting skeined. It's the problem with the 2-yard nitty noddy is when you've got this much yardage on it and then it shrinks, it's really hard to actually twist back into a skein. It does not want to. I should insert some wrestling music here because that feels like what it is. So that's very ugly now, but it is together. Yeah, so I spun up a little bit more on my spindle, which I'm gonna, I think, 2-ply with what's left on the nano for the vivid blanket, seeing as I'm basically out of spun squares now, spinning mini skeins that I've spun now to make more squares. So that's what I've been doing. But yeah, so this is like some singles that have come off my AGN of the Gulf Coast Native, and then I've spun these singles, which is a hip strings blend called Cream Colored Ponies, and like you can see in this light, it's basically the same color as my hair, which is very weird. And even though it's a nice blend to spin, I can't use any more of this color. I just have this like rule against yarn, especially if you're making it into hats that is the same color as your hair, because it looks so weird. Or the same color as your face skin. Because again, then it's like, well, actually maybe that's just a rule in general. Like, I have a thing about people wearing clothes that is the same tone as their skin, because then I always have to go, are they naked? And it's like, it's not great. It's not great at all. I was watching some YouTube video the other day where the guy was wearing pink shorts and he was doing a cooking demonstration. I'm like, is he wearing pants? He was, but still. Maybe it's the inner prude, don't wear nude colored clothing because it looks like you're naked. PSA. Anyway, back to spinning. So those, I already did the other turtle of these. I'm just waiting till I finish my spin along for the month with the Jenkins group to ply them together, because I did it outside of the month. Then I've started spinning up this Manx Lotan, I don't know. Manx Loughtan. Pretty sure that's how you spell it. And it almost matches my spindle. So this is chrome top from Hip Strings as well. And this is for the vivid blanket. And this has been pretty nice to spin up so far. I'll probably spin more of it. I've got a little bit more, at least the other half, the singles. So for the vivid blanket. My other question is, I end up with having like, I don't know, between 40 and 70 grams of each of these fibers left, so I'm kind of contemplating whether or not it would be worth just spinning up another spindle spin and duplicating what I can to put doubles of things in the blanket, just because like on the pattern page the blanket is 20 squares and it makes a baby blanket size, and I've got 10 so far, and I just trying to figure out what size would be good. Like if I wanted it to be throw size, I probably want it to be maybe 30 squares, and then if I wanted it to be bed size, which I don't think I would, I think throw size would be a good amount. And then so I've done a little bit of wheel spinning. I'm still working on this black Welsh mountain, so this is my first bobbin. I forced myself to spin this during Tour de Fleece, and I'm going to have to force myself to spin the rest. Like I said in previous episodes, I don't know if I just completely stuffed the prep of it, but I think it actually has more to do with characteristic of the breed. I ended up sewing myself an apron to catch all the debris and the short, coarse, puby looking hairs that fall out while you're spinning or carding it. So, and then I did get some more black Welsh comb top from Hip Strings as well, just to experiment with, to see if it's similar. Like it doesn't say it's black Welsh mounted down, which I know that one is, but it does feel somewhat coarse, but it doesn't feel as, I don't know, pubic hair like. So I'm not enjoying that much. I just want it finished. And then, and it's for Shave 'em to Save 'em. So once I get my sticker, then I can be like, done. You don't have to like every breed in the world. And that one is just like not so appealing to me so far. Then I've got this. This is already plied into a 2-ply. It hasn't been washed, obviously, because it's still in the bobbin, but this is Navajo Charo, which is traditionally used in like tapestry weavings by the Navajo people. And I got it from, it's got some guard hairs on it too. And it's not like, it's just such a beautiful color. It kind of is like a frosted cappuccino to me, because it's got like enough silvery on the brown. I think it's just gorgeous. But I got it from this Native American veteran owned farm called Dot Ranch, and like she sells on Etsy. I did spin this with a little bit more ply twist because I was of a mind to use it in the Yarn Worker Weave Along that's coming up, because it's a mini rug weave along, and seeing as this is like thought of as rug wool, so I feel like this is just like on the softer side. It was fun to spin. It spun it really quick. I spun and plied this in a day because I was naughty and did not rest my singles. It was a 4 ounce ball of roving, and I still have a little bit left because I've set it aside. I want to spindle spin it to see for the blanket, but also to see if it feels different that way. And I'm perfectly happy to have a few rough squares in the blanket. So, and again, I think it will like hold up really nice. So I'm happy with that. I'll be buying from her again if I want more of this. So with that weave along that's coming up, I'm kind of wondering whether I just, try out the mini rugs and then make a bigger rug, because I've got some Lincoln long wool for Shave 'em to Save 'em that I still have to figure out how to comb with my limited tools that I think would be good. I could use some of the Teeswater probably in it. And then I've got some Lincoln, Leicester long wool, but that's the bright green, so I don't know about that. And I could use the Cotswold too, but I don't feel like bright purple either. For some reason, it's just like my first go-to is these natural colors and for spinning, and I think it's just because you get a bit, well for me, I get a bit of decision fatigue, and when it comes to colors, it's like another decision you have to make on top of the actual physical spinning of things that you've got to make up front. The colorful braids, even though they're beautiful and I like to pat them and lust over them and all of that business, like if you want to make the yarn look a certain way, then it's another decision you have to make about how you want to handle the colors. Like you might not just want to spin across the top. You might want to split it into 3 for a 3-ply, or into 2 for a traditional 2-ply, or just spin it across the top and then chain ply it, or you might want to fractal spin it. Like then I get a bit bogged down by all the decision making there. So in some ways the natural spinning is just like, I can just take a breath and just spin. So maybe you'll see some more colour. I've got plenty of colourful braids. It's just a matter of feeling enough, I don't know, brain capacity to want to make decisions about that. And I think for the most part, the way I've been spinning lately is just going with it and going with the flow. And that once I have to make a lot of decisions, it makes it a lot harder. So on the making decisions note, let's talk about a little bit of weaving. So I have a rigid heddle loom. It's an Ashford Knitters loom. It's 20 inches wide, and I've got like the double heddle set and multiple heddles. So I haven't actually woven anything for like since before Christmas last year, and I'm still definitely a baby weaver. I'm still learning. So what I did is I ended up getting, during April, Liz Gibson, who is Yarn Worker, was offering her Weaving 101 free for a limited time due to the pandemic. And so I thought, you know what, I'm just going to start with the basics and run this course and try and forget any bad habits that I might have learned through self-teaching. So I made this cowl. Ta-da! So that fringe wasn't meant to be pale pink. It was originally a pale grey, but this hand spun that I've used in the weft actually ended up bleeding. That's the word I was looking for, bleeding. So I made it slightly longer. This was woven on a 7.5 dents per inch heddle, and I tried to get it to an 8 picks per inch on the weaving, but some places it's less and some places it was more, because like I said, I'm out of practice and I'm still trying to figure out how much like find my beat. And I think this could have done with being beaten a little bit tighter, because it didn't bloom as much as I thought it would. But this pattern's called the Hidden Treasures Cowl, and you just weave a square and then sew it together, and it's got like this nifty little pocket on the inside that's big enough to put a phone, for instance, if you just wanted to go hands-free and didn't have any pockets, because you know, women's clothes and pockets, they don't go together apparently. So this was just like one 50-gram ball of an 8-ply wool that I had in my stash for the warp, and I ended up warping it slightly narrower because I ran out of wool. Oops. And then the weft is like some leftover hand spun, which is the grey merino silk and angora blend, I think. But I thought it was fun how the color transitions played, so you get kind of a gradient, and luckily I had basically the same color on either end left over, and I have a tiny smidgen left more of this. And then yeah, you just knot the fringe, sew it up and knot the fringe. But that was really helpful because it was a fairly small project, and it took you it took a lot of the decision making out of it, because it told you how much yarn you needed for your warp, how much yarn you needed for your weft, how long your warp should be, like how long your fringe should be, how you should weave it, how wide it should be, all of that, which I like, because at the moment I'm feeling like the thing that holds me back with weaving a little bit is the decision making that you have to do up front, compared to say knitting or crochet. Is like you can have a plan of what you want to do, but you can also just go. just cast on so many stitches and knit, and then like you can cast on one stitch and then increase every other row and knit, and you've got like a bias or a triangle shawl or a bias scarf or whatever, or a square that you can turn into something. And I find that much easier because it doesn't have so much decision making up front. So after doing the hidden treasures, I was like, well, I have a bunch of cotton. Now I have no more cotton because I used it all left in my stash. So I thought, well, I'm going to make some dish towels. And this, so I did the math and I thought I would get 4 out of my warp, but I got 3.5, and that's fine. So here's my half. So this is actually a size that I kind of like because it's not like full dry all your dishes size, but it is just a handy size to have as like a hand towel. Handy, get it? And so the warp was this way. So I've hemmed these and they've been washed, but again, I think I should have beaten them a little bit more because the yarn didn't fall as much as I want. Though I've heard that with cotton towels, they bloom and tighten up for the first like 5 to 6 washes, and these have only been washed once. So they might improve over time. And so this is a combination of mostly Knit Picks, Dishy, Peaches and Cream, and the other worsted weight dishcloth cotton, which I can't remember the name of, but it's also like pretty widely available from big box stores. So you can see with the weft on this half, I did black and purple stripes at the top, and then black and silver stripes there, and then I just did plain weave black on the bottom. So that's a half, and then this one, which I think is my favorite. Oh, sorry for all the creases, guys. Maybe if I hold it tighter you can't see the creases so much. This is one of my favorites. So this has got the same purple here in the weft as this purple stripe in the warp, and otherwise it's mostly just Dishy's swan color, so they're like natural cotton color as the background. So I'm very pleased with that one. And then this is the one that I've done that has just plain swan, which I think the lighter color in it, plus having this strip here, which you can see is white compared to this being silver or a very pale gray, it just pops. And then having the lighter color in the weft, I think really throws those stripes into relief without making it look too graphic. So, and then the last one I did is this one, which was me just trying to use up as much of the leftovers as I could. So I started off with black, alternating every 2 rows with the grey, and then a block of grey, then alternating every 2 rows with this aqua colour, a block of aqua, then alternating every 2 rows with white, and then the white colour alternating with the black colour until I ran out of the white, and then I just did plain black at the end. And I'm surprised at how much I like this, even though it's not balanced or anything. It's possibly my least favourite out of all of them, but that's okay. It was a really good learning experience for me, so I'm quite happy with that. And I think viewing it as I'm just going to see where this goes and trying to learn some stuff is a really good way for me to be more forgiving around things not quite turning out. It's like giving yourself permission to not be the best. It's like, okay, I am learning. I acknowledge that I'm learning, and it's okay if it looks a bit janky. The next one will probably be better. So, and to be honest, I don't think they're too janky. So that's that. And then at the moment I've almost finished warping my loom for a table runner that I'm making for a friend. So I still have to tie on and then do the actual weaving, but for some reason warping just takes so long. It took me like 3 days to try and figure out the pattern that I've got, and I'm still not sure what pattern I want to do in the weft, just because I kind of want to try a few rows and just see. Putting it in Excel was very frustrating for me. So maybe it would have been good if it was like a smaller piece, but because this is using the full width of my loom, it's just like, oh really, do I have to like plot this out so much? So yeah, I'll put pictures of that once I'm finished. I did a small piece of hand-woven cloth that I made into a project bag for the same swap that I sent to the with the green Corriedale that I spun. It involved a lot of hand sewing, more than I thought it would. For some reason the machine didn't really like doing commercial fabric and the woven fabric together. It didn't mind doing the woven fabric on its own or the commercial fabric on its own, but I ended up just hand sewing it because it was easy, and it was kind of more in a lunchbox style soft bag. If I wanted to make more of them, I think I need to think of a better way of putting it together, a bit more efficient than that. So that's it for most of my fibre crafty business for this week, but I have been making some kitchen adventures. We did errands and went to H Mart on the weekend, which it was a bit overwhelming. I don't think any social distancing was happening in that shop, and there was like a lot to look at on all the shelves. So it took all of my capacity to focus. And then when we went to get lunch, which was banh mi from a very crowded lunch shop, it was just a bit much, and I'm like, I'll tag out with you, husband, can you wait, because this is just too much chaos. I like a certain amount of chaos, but once it goes over that, can't deal. But the reason we went to H Mart was to do a big shop, get some more kimchi, but I also wanted to get sushi making supplies, because something from like when I was living in Australia, sushi I would have like at least once, if not more times a week, including not just sushi, but like the Japanese curry with chicken katsu on it. It's a staple in some ways there because it's like a quick and easy lunch, but here it's either hard to find or sushi is like really expensive. So I used to make sushi a lot when I was like in grade 7, but I haven't really made it since then, and it wasn't too hard. Mostly muscle memory. I pretty much remembered, so I made some salmon and avocado sushi. Probably not as fancy or necessarily as true to type or good as like real sushi, but it satisfied the cravings, and now I can make like 30 more rolls, and all of the ingredients probably cost about the same as like going and getting sushi out for 2 people 1.5 times. So I'm quite pleased with that. Then I also started a bench top experiment of making homemade ginger beer. Again, something else I've missed. So apparently I just find like I get nostalgia for things and then I just have to make it because it's just not available. Or if it is available, I don't know where it's from or how to get it. So if I just make it, it seems to work okay. So on the bench top, I tried making ginger beer. The recipe I followed was for alcoholic ginger beer, which involves making a plant and then feeding it every day like a starter. So it's basically a starter, and it sits on your bench with a covering, and you feed it ginger and sugar every day, and it gets little bubbles on it, and that's the primary ferment from it. And then you pour it into just plastic soda bottles and let it sit for like 1.5 weeks to 2 weeks, and you can squeeze it every day. And if it's like a rock, then you open up the lid and let the carbonation go off until you can squeeze it again, and then twist it back on. They could be alcoholic. They probably have some level of alcohol in them. I don't know. They're, so I did 2 1-litre bottles. The first one I've opened and started drinking yesterday, and I'm quite pleased with it because when we had a little taste test on the weekend and it was a bit rough, and one of them was definitely rougher than the other, so I'm going by colour as a way to tell how close to done they are. It was definitely drinkable. I was quite pleased with that. I'll probably make some more. It was a lot of effort for 2 bottles of ginger beer, but we'll see how the other one is. According to the husband, it was rough when he drank it the other day, but I've got a feeling it just needed to keep fermenting a little bit more and maybe have some more of the yeast die off. I just used baker's yeast because I wasn't going to go and buy some more stuff that, like champagne yeast, for something if I didn't know it was going to work or not. But yeah, it has worked. So I'm quite pleased with that. And then the last kitchen experiment I've been doing is making a very simple 2-ingredient ice cream, which is concerning how quick we eat it because I make it in one of the IKEA long loaf tins in the fridge, and it lasts like 4 days, which I guess is a sign because we both like it. So the first one I did was just plain vanilla, and then and I scraped some vanilla beans out of the stick that was in the Penzies jar to try and like use it all up. And it was nice. I think it needed more vanilla though. And so the 2 ingredients is a can of condensed milk and basically a pint of whipping cream, and you whip the cream and then mix them together and put them in a cold loaf tin in the freezer, and let it set for like 4 hours. And the longer you set it, the harder it gets. Yeah, but the second one, because it's Eka time in Brisbane, the Royal Brisbane Show, which normally it's cancelled this year, but normally has strawberry sundaes as part of it. So obviously it was a subconscious thing because I didn't plan it. I was just like, it'd be good, some strawberries in this ice cream. So I chopped up chunks of strawberries and mixed them in. Hot tip, if you want to do that, try and like maybe muddle the strawberries a bit first, because I think it would disperse the flavour better through the ice cream. But still good. They're gone now. No more. All eaten. My next plan is we've still got frozen blueberries from when we went blueberry picking. So maybe either like make that into, like cook it down a little bit and make it into like a syrup, or a very thick syrup, or do something similar with like some peaches we've got that are frozen. But we'll see. We'll see what happens. I will report back. Thanks for listening. That's the end for today. Bye, friends.